There's a certain kind of silence you only hear after midnight. Not the silence of an empty room, but the silence that stretches across hills and forests when the world has finally gone to sleep. If you've ever stepped outside of that hour, no phone in your hand, no music in your ears, you know what I mean. The sky doesn't just hang above you. It feels like it presses down. Vast, endless, almost personal. Maya Sharma used to stand under that sky every night. She wasn't trying to be dramatic about it. She just preferred the dark. In the city, the stars are faint and embarrassed, washed out by streetlights and neon signs. Out in the hills where she moved, the sky was unapologetically black. The kind of black that makes the stars look sharp enough to cut you. Maya was 27 years old, already respected in her field, already offered more comfortable jobs than most people see in a lifetime. She turned them down. Not because she hated the city, not because she was antisocial, but because she believed something simple and stubborn. If we were ever going to hear the universe answer back, we had to actually listen. And listening requires quiet. The house she chose sat alone on a stretch of land bordered by tall grass and scattered trees. The nearest village was small, close enough for groceries, far enough for rumors. The villagers knew about her. They'd see the faint glow from her windows at 3 in the morning. Delivery trucks would rumble up the dirt road, carrying equipment that didn't look like it belonged in a farmhouse. Metal cases, satellite components, custom servers. To them, she was harmless. A little strange, maybe. The girl who never slept and stared at the sky like she expected it to blink first. Inside her house, one room was nothing but monitors and cables. Wires ran like veins across the walls. The hum of processes filled the air day and night. She had built her own small listening station. Nothing illegal, nothing secret, just a more sensitive ear pointed toward deep space. For years, it gave her nothing. Data flowed in constantly. Background radiation, pulsars ticking steadily, distant cosmic noise that scientists had cataloged decades ago. She would sit for hours with a mug of coffee gone cold beside her keyboard, watching flat lines crawl across the screen. Sometimes she would zoom in, adjust filters, double-check calibration. The result was always the same. Silence, except for one coordinate. She found it almost by accident during a routine sweep. A patch of sky that registered wrong, not noisy, not active, just absent. Where there should have been faint traces of distant stars, there was a gap, a hole in the expected pattern. It wasn't dramatic. No flashing lights, no secret code, just an absence that statistics couldn't quite explain. She marked it and moved on, but she kept coming back to it. Every night, almost without realizing, her hand would guide the system toward that same silent region. She started calling it the silent patch. It sounded poetic, and she laughed at herself for that, but the name stuck. Weeks passed, then months. The silent patch stayed silent until one Tuesday. It was just past 11 at night. The air felt thick, the way it does before a storm that never quite arrives. Even the insects outside had gone quiet. Maya noticed it in passing but didn't think much of it. She was focused on her screens. The silent patch had changed. At first, she thought it was a glitch. A faint ripple where the flat line should have been. She leaned closer, adjusted the gain. The ripple sharpened, not random noise. Structured. Repeating. Her heart sped up, but she forced herself to breathe slowly. Excitement ruins good science. She started recording everything, copying raw data into separate folders, tagging timestamps. Then the monitors flickered. The ripples spiked once hard like a heartbeat. And everything went black. The power didn't go out. The room lights were still on, just the monitors. Dead silent. She pushed back from the desk, confused when the world outside her window exploded into white. It wasn't lightning. There was no thunder before it, no storm clouds. Just a flash so bright it erased every shadow in the room for a split second. Then came the sound, a deep, physical vibration that traveled through the floor and up her spine. The glass in the windows rattled violently. Something heavy struck the ground nearby, with a force that made her knees buckle. For a few seconds, she couldn't hear anything but the ringing in her ears. Common sense would have told her to stay inside. To call someone. To wait. Instead, she grabbed the heavy flashlight by the door and ran. The night air hit her face cold and sharp. Smoke or steam rose from behind the small hill at the edge of her property. The smell reached her before the sight did. Metallic. Bitter. Like burnt circuitry. She climbed a slope, her boots slipping on loose dirt. The field beyond had been torn open, a crater carved into the earth, maybe 10 meters across. The grass around it smoldered faintly. The soil at the center still glowed with residual heat, and there, at the bottom, was a figure. At first, she thought it was debris shaped like a person. Then she saw the slow rise and fall of a chest. He was enormous. Taller than anyone she'd ever seen, even curled slightly on his side. The suit he wore was smooth and seamless, clinging to his frame like liquid metal frozen in motion. It reflected her flashlight in soft, distorted glimmers. His skin where it showed at the neck and hands had a faint luminosity. Not bright, just enough to suggest something moving beneath the surface. She stood there longer than she would later admit. This was the moment where a rational person calls the authorities, reports the impact. Steps away, Maya slid down into the crater instead. Up close, she could see shallow burns along his arm. The Fabricor material of his suit was damaged in places, revealing that strange glowing skin beneath. She reached out, hesitated, then pressed her fingers lightly against his wrist. Warm. Alive. She didn't decide in words. There was no dramatic internal speech. She just knew that if she called anyone, this being would disappear into locked rooms and classified reports. Questions would be asked that she would never hear the answers to. So, she did the most unreasonable thing she had ever done. She dragged him home. It took nearly half an hour. He was impossibly heavy, as if gravity clung to him differently. She had to stop twice to catch her breath, her muscles burning. Inside her lab, she laid him on the reinforced floor near her work table. Up close, the details unsettled her more than the distance had. His features were almost human symmetrical, come but subtly off. The proportions too precise, the skin too smooth, the faint light beneath it pulsing in slow rhythms. She cleaned the burns carefully. When her fingers brushed his skin directly, a low vibration passed through her palm. Not painful, just present. His eyes opened without warning. They were dark brown, familiar, human. And yet, as she held his gaze, she felt something press gently against her mind. Not invasive, not violent, just there. A single word formed, not in her ears but somewhere behind her thoughts. Aaron. Images followed in fragments, a sky split by 3 suns. Structures rising in elegant curves, vast open spaces where people beings moved lightly, almost floating. He was not a soldier, not an invader. He was a scout, an explorer. His vessel had malfunctioned during atmospheric entry. Systems failure, emergency descent. Understanding came in waves, not sentences, not grammar. Shared impressions layered over emotion. For hours, they remained like that. Maya showed him Earth the only way she could through memory. Oceans crashing against cliffs, crowded markets, children laughing, war footage she had once seen in documentaries. The ache of loss when her father died years ago. The small, stubborn joy of finishing a research paper at 3 a.m. He lingered when she showed him something harder to define. Love. He didn't recognize it. The concept seemed foreign in a way gravity or oxygen never had. She tried to explain, tried to reduce it to something measurable. Failed. It's when someone else matters more than your own safety, she thought at him, when their absence changes the shape of your world. Aaron reached out slowly. When his hand touched her cheek, the vibration returned stronger this time. Through whatever link connected them, she felt more than her own heartbeat. She felt his confusion soften into something warmer. A shared loneliness meeting its reflection. In that small room, surrounded by humming machines and cracked glass, the universe shrank. They were not alien and human in that moment, just 2 conscious minds, touching across impossible distance. Exhaustion eventually claimed her. She didn't remember lying down, only the warmth beside her and the steady pulse beneath her hand. Morning light woke her. The space beside her was cold. She sat up too fast, her heart racing. The lab was quiet. Too quiet. Erin was gone. She ran outside. The field was whole again. No crater. No scorched earth. Just grass bending in the breeze, as if nothing had happened. Back inside, the loss became sharper. Equipment missing. Drives removed. Servers stripped clean. Panic rose, thick and suffocating. Then she saw the laptop. One file remained on the desktop. I'm sorry. This was necessary. Some discoveries invite dangers you cannot yet see, but what we shared was real. She read it slowly. Anger came first, then grief, then something steadier. She logged into her remote storage backup intact. That night, she carried her telescope back outside. The sky looked unchanged, distant, silent, but she didn't feel small anymore. Somewhere beyond that, darkness beyond the reach of her instruments, and beyond the boundaries of human maps, was a world with 3 suns. And on that world, perhaps, someone stood under a brighter sky, remembering her. Maya adjusted the focus carefully and began listening again. So tonight, when the world gets quiet and the sky turns that deep, endless black, step outside for a minute. Put your phone down. Just look up. Think about how small we are, and how maybe, just maybe, we're not as alone as we've always believed. If this story made you feel something curiosity, hope, or even a little fear, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Was Erin protecting her? Was he hiding something bigger? Or was that connection simply 2 lonely minds meeting across the dark? And if you enjoy stories that blur the line between science and the unknown, make sure you subscribe and stay with us. There are more signals out there, more mysteries waiting in the silence. Until next time, keep listening. You never know who might be listening back.